Bob, we're starting.
Testing. No, something happened. I'm recording it, but it wants not the sound anymore. I can stop the stream and start it.
So just text him. Reading from Paul's letter to the Romans. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and not all the members have the same function. So we, who are many, are one body in Christ, and individually we are members one of another. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us: prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the exhorter in exhortation, the giver in generosity, the leader in diligence, the compassionate in cheerfulness. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in suffering. Persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Extend hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, worship Your holy name. The
first letter to the Thessalonians. We appeal to you, brothers and sisters, to respect those who labor among you and have charge of you in the Lord and admonish you. Esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we urge you, beloved, to admonish the idlers, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with all of them. See that none of you repays evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to all. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Do not quench the spirit, do not despise the words of prophets, but test everything. Hold fast to what is good, abstain from every form of evil. May the God of peace himself sanctify you entirely, and may your spirit and soul and body be kept sound and blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. The one who calls you is faithful, and he will do this.
So I've always thought that Moses would be a great name for a dog. You might remember the story from the Hebrew scriptures of the great leader Moses leading the children of Israel out of captivity in Egypt and toward the promised land. Except it was not a straight shot, was it? Something happened between the release from captivity and their arrival in the promised land. It did not go as they had anticipated. It wasn't quite a pandemic, but it was 40 years wandering in the wilderness. It was an arduous and difficult journey, and there was a whole lot of complaining and whining and finger pointing and second guessing. There was constant bickering. Tommy stole my manna, Moses. There were lots of excuses. The camel ate my homework, Moses. Even though he told God he was going to quit several times, he hung in there to the end. He was a good leader. He didn't feed into their complaints or their fears. He just kept moving toward the goal that he knew that God had set for them. His very first stop was on Mount Sinai on the Sinai Peninsula. In Arabic, it's called Jabal Musa, Mount Moses. It's a holy site for several religions. If you go there today, you'll find a mosque, a Greek Orthodox chapel, and St. Catherine's Monastery. Right after grad school, when I was just a few years older than you are, I had arranged to go there, and that was back before you could just send an email. I had to do a handwritten letter to the abbot, and he wrote back to me in Greek. Fortunately, I had a friend who could read Greek, and he said, "Brother William, we welcome you." But the day that I was going to go to Mount Sinai, the police in Cairo rioted and they shut the border. An unexpected change of plans. So I got stuck in Jerusalem. Not a bad place to get stuck. As the story goes, God called Moses up to the summit of Mount Sinai, where Moses found himself surrounded by what the scriptures call thick darkness. In other words, he couldn't see, and neither could the people down below. And people got scared because human beings like to be able to see clearly. They like to know what's going on. They're not real comfortable with ambiguity and the unknown, so they stayed back. But Moses went on up and he stayed there for 40 days, not quite as long as our recent shelter in place, but still a long time to be sequestered with no one but God and yourself. Now down below, you're not going to believe this, but the people started getting impatient. They started getting antsy and they started doing stupid things, demanding a timeline. When are you coming down? Endangering themselves and others, seeking a quick fix and a ready-made God that they could control. Well, finally, Moses came down from the mountain carrying 2 tablets, not iPads, but stone tablets. And on them, you might remember, were 10 Commandments. You may have heard of them. Now, the interesting thing about commandments is that their purpose is not to zap you or to take all the fun out of life or deny you your rights. They're supposed to be helpful. They're supposed to be guidelines and covenants as to how we might live in a way that honors one another, is respectful of each other, and keeps us connected. Later on, the prophets and Jesus would take all 10 of those commandments and summarize them with two: to love God with every part of yourself, and to love your neighbor, which is everyone, just as you love yourself. And that's a really important point, because if you don't love yourself, the chances are really good that you will not be able to love other people. All of the hateful behavior we sometimes see in our world, and we've seen a lot of it these last few days: racism, homophobia, prejudice, violence, injustice. It's usually a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. So love God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, during this pandemic, although I've been really busy, I had a little bit of time sequestered with my God. And I want you to know that God revealed to me 10 commencement commandments in the time of COVID. And here they are. This is what I want to leave you with today. And I'm going to need some help, and I know it's going to be hard for you to speak through your masks, but you can do this. So the first commandment is, repeat after me: thou shalt celebrate thyself. Now, the truth is, you should always be yourself for one simple reason: everyone else is already taken. You may not believe this, but you are the only you in the entire world. And it's important to remember that whatever flaws or imperfections you think you might have, and trust me, most people don't notice those as much as you notice them yourself. You are a one-of-a-kind original. There is no one who has the unique combination of personality traits, talents, tastes, and life experience. I love the story that is told about the great singer who really changed the course of musical history, Elvis Presley. The day that he walked into Sun Studios in Memphis as a shy teenager, he knew who he was. And the receptionist asked him, "Hey, son, what kind of music do you sing?" And Elvis said, "I sing all kinds." She said, No, but who do you sound like, Elvis?" "Ma'am, I don't sound like nobody." The truth is, you don't sound, you don't look, you don't think, you don't act exactly like anybody else on this planet. God made you uniquely, so celebrate yourself. The second commandment is, and repeat after me, know thy story. There's a great scene in another movie about a favorite singer who was active about the time of Elvis. His name was Johnny Cash, and I really love Johnny Cash, I think, because he wore black, and I wear black almost every day. There's a movie about him called Walk the Line, and in that movie, he asks his older brother, Jack, why he knows so many stories from the Bible. And Jack says, because if you want to help people, you got to know which stories to tell them. That's true. Now, you may think that your story is not all that interesting, maybe not all that helpful. You'd be surprised. Your story, which is the only story that you can really tell with authenticity, your challenges, your struggles, your failures, your successes, your embarrassing moments might be just what somebody needs to hear to keep them going, to give them hope. Know thy story and be willing to share it. The third commandment, repeat after me, count thy blessings. Oh, come on, one more time. Count thy blessings. Now, I have to tell you, wandering in the wilderness was about as much fun as living through a pandemic. And yet, it was those folks who were aware of God's blessings every day who really were able to thrive in that context. They made gratitude lists. They counted their blessings. They named them one by one. A roof over my head, air conditioning, a truck, clean water, Tabasco sauce, a computer. For me, a Pez collection. But don't tell anyone. That's my deepest, darkest secret. This lesson was brought home to me in a very powerful way when not too long ago I went to visit a man who had just retired. He was very successful. He was a developer. He had worked really hard, and he was so looking forward to moving to his ranch and hanging out with his grandkids. And by the way, grandparents are one of life's greatest blessings. And he was just about to retire, and he had a debilitating stroke and would be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I remember how depressed I was the day that I went to go see him, and I was feeling terrible, and I was feeling sad, and I really didn't know what to say to him. And I walked in the door, and there he was, sitting in his living room, and he was just beaming. He had the biggest smile on his face. And I said, "Joe, how are you?" And he said, "Bill, I want to tell you something. I am the most blessed man on the entire planet. Every day I look out and I count my blessings, and I am so grateful. Would you sing the old hymn with me? Count your many blessings. Name them one by one." And we did sing that, and I'll never forget it. Commandment 4, discern thy values. Say it with me. Discern thy values. What we've been seeing in America the last few days is what happens when people aren't sure what their values are. What do you stand for in this life? On what do you base your most important decisions? How you will act? How you will vote? How will you live? Not long ago, a 30-year-old young man came to see me in my office, and at about age 18, he decided that he was going to reject most of the values he had learned as a young person. And so he had begun to live his life, and he had become pretty successful, and yet he found himself very unhappy. And when he came in to see me, he said, "Bill, I know what I'm against, but I have no idea what I'm for. Will you help me discern what I should be for in this life?" And that was the beginning of his spiritual journey, discerning those values that would guide him the rest of his life. And I want to tell you, they have. And that guy has made a big difference. The 5th commandment is this: always be kind. When I was 3 years old, I went to Sunday school. And my Sunday school teacher, her name was Mrs. Kendrick. And I'll never forget her because she had animals all over the Sunday school wall. And if you've got animals on your wall, you're an okay person in my book. And I remember she taught me a verse to memorize. And it went like this: be ye kind one to another. I used to go around my house irritating my brother, saying to him, "Tom, be ye kind one to another. Be ye kind one to another." As I grew older and went to grad school, I started studying the Bible in more depth. I even learned how to read it in Hebrew and in Greek. And I have to tell you, never in my life did I learn anything more important than that very first verse. Be ye kind one to another. It is more important in this life to be loving than to be right. Number 6, pursue thy bliss. How many of you have ever heard of the great mythologist Joseph Campbell? Raise your hand. Very good. Those of you who haven't heard of Joseph Campbell, that's your assignment this summer. Read Joseph Campbell. My favorite quote from Joseph Campbell is this one: follow your bliss. and the universe will open doors where there were only walls. What is it in your life that gives you the most joy? That place that you are called is where your joy and the world's needs meet. Okay, commandment 7, and there will be a test. Thou shalt reach out beyond thyself. This is one of the great paradoxes of life, and one of the great paradoxes of faith, that the more we focus on ourselves, our own needs, and our own happiness, the less we find it. Jesus put it this way: if you are willing to lose yourself, you will actually find yourself. Martin Luther King Jr., whose wisdom we need now more than ever, put it this way: life's most important question is this: what are you doing for others? Making a difference in the lives of other people will make the most positive and profound difference in your own. Number 8, thou shalt be more open. Show me a person with a closed mind, and I will show you an extraordinarily dull person. Stasis is never an option for those who seek to be fully alive. Open yourselves up to new thoughts, new ideas, new perspectives, new experiences. As George Bernard Shaw once said, if you can't change your mind, you cannot change anything. Be open to what the universe is trying to teach you. And our next to last commandment, number 9, thou shalt prioritize thy relationships. This is a lesson my dogs teach me every day. That the most important thing in my life is not my career, it's not even my education, and it's definitely not my material possessions. It's my relationships. Make time for them above everything else. Your friends, your families, your parents and grandparents, your teachers, your coaches, your dogs, and yes, because God is love, even your cats. Make the people in your life your priorities. And finally, number 10 of the commencement commandments in the time of COVID, repeat after me: thou shalt not take thyself too seriously. Life is too important to be taken too seriously. The great theologian G.K. Chesterton observed, the angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Madeleine L'Engle, someone who wrote a book you probably read when you were young, A Wrinkle in Time, once wrote, a good laugh heals all of life's hurts. Indeed it does. There will be hurts, there will be pain, there will be terrible things that we encounter. But a sense of humor brings the greatest sense of perspective. Be in on the joke at all times, and even if you don't get it, laugh. Because the more you laugh, the funnier you will think it is. Thou shalt not take thyself too seriously. May these commencement commandments in the time of COVID help you in the years ahead lead a richer, fuller, and more meaningful life. And you know what? They're not really all that hard to keep, but even if they were, look what you accomplished in the midst of a pandemic. There is nothing you cannot do.
I've wept for those who suffer long, but how I weep for those who've gone into rooms of grief and question wrong, but keep on killing. It's in the soul to such things, but weak to watch without speaking. Oh, what mercy sadness brings, if God be willing. There is a train that's heading straight to heaven's gate, to heaven's gate. And on the way, child and man and woman wait, watch and wait for redemption day. Fire rages in the streets and swallows everything it needs. It's just an image often seen on television. Come leaders, come ye men of great, let us hear you pontificate. Your many virtues laid to waste, and we aren't listening. There is a train that's heading straight to heaven's gate, to heaven's gate. And on the way, child and man and woman wait, watch and wait for redemption day. What do you have for us today? Throw us a bone, but save the plate. On why you waited till so late. Was there no oil to excavate, no riches in trade for the fate of every person who died in hate? Throw us a bone, you men of courage. There is a train that's heading straight to heaven's gate, to heaven's gate. And on the way, child and man and woman wait, watch and wait for redemption day. It's buried in the countryside, it's hidden in the shells of night. It's everywhere, baby cries. Freedom, 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 freedom.
A prayer for the graduates. We pray for all students graduating this week from Christ Episcopal School. God, in this unprecedented time, be with those who have worked hard and who we celebrate. Give them peace and security as they move towards a different journey. Walk with them as you always have into the dawn of this new beginning. We especially pray this day for Emery, Luke, Lucy, Lad, Diego, Katie, Alex, Rachel, Mia, Alexandra, Molly, Becca, Jordan, Andrew, Georgie, Keaton, Kate, Wyatt, Molly, Bridget, Ethan, Lola, Reese, Claire, James, Gracie, Patrick, Alyssa, Luke, Jacob, Eric, Justin, Jack, and Abby as they graduate this week. Let them all know that they are loved and that they are celebrated. Amen.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where faith may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed, and you won't start now. So I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Spirit, lead me where my trust is within borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. And I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. For I am yours, and you are mine. For I am yours, and you are mine.
Blessing of the graduates of Christ Episcopal School. We unite our hearts in prayer and entrust to the hands of the Lord those of you who will graduate this week. May God, who began this good work in you, carry it through to completion, enabling you to use your talents to the fullest. May God give you the grace to make wise choices and to be faithful to your commitments, always confident in the support of those who love you. May God bless you with discomfort and easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you will live deep within your heart and soul. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and the exploitation of people, so that you will work for justice, equality, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and war, so that you will reach out your hand to comfort them and change their pain into joy. And may God bless you with the foolishness to think that you can make a difference in this world, so that you will do the things that others tell you cannot be done. May your integrity be a gift to the world, and may the Spirit of God be with you always. Amen.
Hey guys, how are y'all? That's pretty quiet. How are y'all? Thank you. Okay, so we are. No, can I? All right. Can you hear me through the mic? Am I? It's gonna have to stay. I'm sorry. I'm just short. I can stand like this. Is that better? Yeah. All right. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna say a few words about kind of just the nature of this next part of what we're doing, and then I'm gonna introduce some people who are here to speak to you today, a teacher and your classmates. So I'll just begin, and I'm gonna read this from my paper because I know I'll say the right words that way. Sorry. So it has been our tradition following the baccalaureate service each year to gather and to share in the communion of a common meal while also hearing reflections and insight from a faculty member, as well as from students who wish to address their class before departing as graduates. Sorry, I've been attacked by bugs all morning. I had ants all over my feet. It's been an interesting adventure. This year has been unique, to say the least, and there have been enormous challenges confronted and overcome to deliver us to this particular moment. And while we're not seated in a pretty room that Miss Ann made sure was decorated just so, and while we don't have air conditioning, we are seated on the campus that has come to be your home over the years. And I honestly cannot think of a better place to celebrate this moment, and to hear these words from those of you who will be speaking. The first speaker that we'll hear from this morning is the faculty member that this class overwhelmingly selected for this role. And this comes as no surprise. Despite only arriving at CES this year, this teacher has managed to win the hearts of all with his warmth, his humor, his ability to challenge our thinking on some of the most difficult issues, and his absolute and unrivaled joy in teaching young adults. Aware that young people need voices of positivity and confidence and someone to listen and take their ideas seriously, seeing them for the brilliance that they possess, he has imbued so many students with new life and light this year that they will not soon forget. He also brought hilarity, and trivia, and fun to our Los Angeles trip, and in doing so, helped to create lasting memories for everyone that joined us. I know I speak for everyone present today when I say that I am really excited to hear the words of this particular teacher. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Hardy as your first speaker.
Question of the day. The last one. Why? What will you become and why? What will you do and why? Anybody want to take a stab? Nobody. I knew it. Molly. Molly wants to be a surgeon. It may not work out for all of you. Your vision of where you're going to go, why that's going to happen,
Those things might change. I'm going to major in this. My life will take on this. Those things may change. Change is inevitable. That's kind of the theme of what I briefly wanted to talk about. So I'm going to ask for about 4 or 5 minutes of your time to talk about change in my life and in your life. And then something like this wouldn't be complete unless I finish with a really strong quote from some famous person. The usual go-tos are like John F. Kennedy or Winston Churchill, but we'll see how that works out. But before I get into the meat of this, I want to thank you. There are people who are far more eloquent than I who deserve to be standing here talking to you right now. But to ask me to stand here and address you is, for me, a professional highlight and a very moving and cherished memory that I will keep forever. And I can't thank you enough. About a year ago, almost to the day, I sat in Mr. Morvant's office with Mr. Morvant and Ms. Clark for a job interview. And one of the first questions he asked me was, "What do you know about CES?" I gotta be honest with you, he could have asked me 50 questions. I would have had to hem and haw and think of, what's the right answer? What does he want to hear? But that was the easiest question he could have asked me. Teaching high school students for 25 years, I had run across a lot of CES students. And I told him what I knew for sure. A CES student is self-assured, confident, and not in a narcissistic way. They were able to, and this is most important, communicate with adults. And that really is rare among your age group. I rarely run across teenagers, 17, 18-year-olds, who can hold a conversation with an adult, a meaningful conversation. And CES students do that in spades. I also told Mr. Morvant, I don't know what secret sauce you use, but I would like to be a part of it. And bam, my life changed. Here I am. Your life is going to change. Your life is going to change for the better. Sometimes change will not be what you want. Sometimes change will not be welcome. The changes that occurred in my life a year ago, I thought weren't welcome, but I embraced the moment and I decided to create a new story. I embraced the change, and I encourage you to do that because you are standing on the precipice of something new and different. You started here when you were this big, and you moved up through the grades, 5th grade, 6th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Well, if you're Molly Hurton, 12th grade. Diego, 12th grade. But I know this from what I have experienced in the past. This place, this wonderful place, has instilled in you and grown roots into you that will serve you for the rest of your life. You will, each and every one of you, as I look around at your mask-covered faces, I know that each and every one of you will be successful in your own way. You may want to be a surgeon and you may be a surgeon, but you may be something else. It may not work out as you intended. But above all, embrace the changes about to happen and will happen continuously in your life because they are what make your story. Before I finish, I want to ask 2 things of you. Now, I apologize ahead of time because I think I already asked this of one of my classes. But since I have you all together as a captive audience, I'm going to demand 2 things of you. 10 years from now, one of you, someone sitting here, will be planning the 10-year reunion. It's probably that person who's the OCD one, the one who highlights the calendar with 6 different colored markers and makes lists. Who's that? Molly, okay. That person will be planning a 10-year reunion. My first demand is that you go. Please go. It's incredibly important that you attend that event. Everybody goes to the 5-year reunion. The 5 years great, but it's like college 2.0. You still use the word shots in your vocabulary. But at 10 years, you are on your track to being an adult. Many of you will be married. More than a few of you will have your 2.3 children. and you will be on career paths and life paths that will set you for the rest of your life. And then you can walk around that room and see all of these same amazing people that are sitting here today. And you'll see what they're doing, and it will be amazing. It will be surprising. Andrew Kerr is traveling around the world with the Grateful Dead cover band. Alex Legnon, FBI agent. Those the amazing people that are sitting around you right now will be the same amazing people, and you get to see what they're like. Go to the reunion. My second and final demand is that you find me. You find Mr. Morvant and Miss Clark and all of the other people who populate this campus and have populated this campus during your tenure here, and invite us. One of the greatest thrills of my life is getting to go to these events and seeing the people that have come across my life over the years and getting to see what kind of wonderful adults they are. And that is how I know Christ Episcopal kids become very, very successful adults. I can't wait to see you in 10 years. The last thing I want you to think about, and this is where the good quote comes in, when you're wandering around the 10-year reunion, as you are sitting here today looking around at the people who surround you, I want you to remember the one thought that Mr. Morvant gave us at the beginning of the year. Because of this school, because of you all, we are all what? Better together. And that will serve you for the rest of your life. Again, I can't thank you enough for this wonderful opportunity. You all have meant the world to me. And thank you for helping me as a short little old man adjust to a wonderful place and achieve a level of professional and personal satisfaction that I did not think was possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Okay, so for a while, I really thought that only one student was going to speak to you today because that was all that was volunteering. I thought maybe the difficulty of the last few weeks had been too much, and maybe everyone just really needed to be done. Gratefully, I was proven wrong late last week when requests to speak started pouring into my email and through text messages, and it gave me such joy to be able to honor each request. We have more speakers this year than we've ever had. I mean, it makes sense because you're the largest class, but also this kind of strange opportunity to be in this environment today allowed for more time and allowed for more speakers. And so I think if you're looking for things to be grateful for today, that should be one of them, that we get to hear from more of your classmates, their reflections and their thoughts. I think that's a real gift. So our first student speaker this morning has been a beacon of positivity, a source of joyful energy, and a motivator of class unity all year long, especially when things became difficult. The student has worked tirelessly to serve her class and the school, as she has great affection for both. She finds inspiration in seeing students of CES live into the heart of what the school has always claimed to be, and is at her best when she is also honoring that call. She seeks goodness in others and in the world, and can always be counted upon to help when help is needed. These are skills that will serve her well as she moves into the world so much in need of goodness and positivity and servant hearts. It is my pleasure to introduce your class president and your first speaker today, Ms. Bridget Wendelstedt.
Okay, I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry, you guys. Good morning, seniors, faculty, and those watching at home. My name is Bridget Wendelstedt, and this year I have had the privilege of serving as our Class of 2020 Senior Class President. And well, it's been a wild ride to say the least. First, I would like to begin by thanking each and every person who came together to make this event and what will take place later in the week possible. Our education at Christ Episcopal School is one grounded in the teachings of Jesus Christ and taught by dedicated teachers, led by administrators who care so much for each and every one of us. At all of our special events, whether it be an athletic competition, art show, or theater performance, our faculty, coaches, staff, and administrators were right there, cheering us on or comforting us in a time of disappointment. Our class will forever be grateful for each of you for taking time today to honor us in this way. From the beginning, we've always been a break the mold type of group, and that is more evident now than ever. Looking back on the last 4 years, I believe that we have lived up to our titles here. When we first officially became CES high school students, it's no secret we immediately jumped into roles that should have been very intimidating for us, but we faced them head on. Now, as we are leaving Christ, although we are not going out as expected, we still maintain those same values we held our first day on campus. Let's be honest, this group has always been over the top. Between some of the most infamous student council talent show performances this school has ever seen, to our homecoming, prom, and winter formal we planned, and of course the wonderful renditions of Oceans and Deep Cries Out on chapel days, or even the overwhelming and somewhat strange passion this class has for our annual Thanksgiving feast, it's no surprise this class was destined to go out in a fun way, and I believe we're doing just that. Today, as I speak to you all, I can say with complete honesty that I believe if these circumstances were to have not affected our senior year in this way, we would still be leaving behind a legacy that hopefully will not be forgotten for many years to come. Sometimes I think to myself, why did you not appreciate the days while you were living in them? And while looking back, I could have probably stolen Jacob's killer parking spot between the trees more often, or stopped by Miss Clark's office to take a handful, or 3, of Hershey's Kisses, these circumstances and experiences are ones that we've learned from more than anything. They will not define our class of 2020. From now on, I know that all of us will live our lives to the fullest. Anyone who knows this class knows that we are composed of some of the most intriguing individuals this school has ever had to offer. From Eagle Scouts to state parliamentarians to 5-time state champions, Melissa Acosta. This class has had some of the most amazing times together, and it is truly not fair that it has to be cut short. But I know that if I stand here today and mope around not realizing that a random Friday in March would be my last day of my 14-year run here, that would be a bummer. So instead, I'd like to mention some of the good times. You truly never knew what came next with us. Some of my favorite memories with these people are the spontaneous ones that we never realized would have meant something until after they were over. A few of these times were quick and passed without a second thought, but others are ones I will always remember. Walking through the rain to prom junior year, cheering on our basketball or soccer team back-to-back on nights in the winter, and of course, watching The Bachelor Tell-All in the lobby of USC Hotel in LA are some of my favorite times that I shared with this class that we used as an excuse to just spend a little extra time with each other. While the list could go on and on, there is one memory that has been sticking out in my mind while remembering my final year at Christ. So, picture this. 7 18-year-olds sitting in the parking lot of the Covington Courthouse around noon. Sounds like bad news, right? Well, not exactly. It was our civics mock trial day, and we had just taken a break for lunch. As we were sitting in Becca's car, we all sang along to some music that had never really meant anything to me before. At this moment, I took out my phone to record a quick video, because I knew this part was special. It didn't matter that we weren't all best friends. It didn't matter if we held different opinions, lifestyles, or even if we had issues in the past. We were all just so happy to be there. Flash forward to the first week in quarantine, I was going through my camera roll, and for the first time, I watched the video I had taken that day, and immediately was so happy I had a memory that I could look back on of that moment. For some of us, it was 14 years ago that we became Wildcats, walking onto the downtown campus, filled with our young energy and open minds, waiting to become a part of such a special place. When I was starting here, the thought of ever expanding into having a high school was probably as far from the imagination as possible. Our athletic programs were then still considered clubs, and we didn't even have our own theater yet. As the number of the class grew, each of us quickly embraced and helped to shape the young culture at this school and laid out the foundations on what it truly meant to be a CES student. And that's what this class is, the perfect embodiment of every CES student. Lastly, I'd like to share something we discussed in the first quarter during one of our Holocaust history lessons. As we discussed our after high school plans and hopes for the future, in what was the last few days of our first quarter, Mr. Hardy chimed in to add something along the lines of the following. Graduation day will be the last time you are all in the same place at the same time. There is some normalcy remaining, but one day, everything will be the same for the last time, and from there on, there will be new normals in life. This has stuck with me for many reasons, but most notably the fact that this is just the beginning for us. The world is in a quite scary place right now, and it's very daunting to be headed out at a time like this. But our class is never one to shy down from a challenge. I know that going forward, we will use our talents for the greater good, use our love to shape what comes next, our voices to stand up for everything we believe in, and we will pioneer out and conquer the world. If any class can do it, it's certainly this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. That was beautiful. Our second, sorry, you guys, I have to stand on my toes every time I come to this mic. It's the most ridiculous thing. All right, our second student speaker is perhaps one of the most organized humans I have ever known in my life, and I find her to be an inspiration. But it isn't just her organization or her willingness to serve and to lead that inspires me. It is the goodness of her heart. Sometimes goodness of heart is easy to miss in the day-to-day dealings of life. We get caught up in what we think we know of people and we fail to see their truth. This student's goodness flies under the radar as she doesn't want credit or recognition for it. Her goodness looks like hanging out with the teacher's kiddo before school, offering to help with an activity when no one else is around to hear that she is offering, putting in long unsung hours to make sure something goes the way that it should. Personally, I am grateful to this young woman for being such an important influence on my children, but as a teacher, I am grateful to her for all she has done to shape this school into a better place. Your second speaker this morning is Miss Molly LeBaire.
I just wanted to say thank you to Bridget because that was just gorgeous and perfectly encompassed everything we are as a class. But to start off for us, our high school years have never quite gone as planned. From our first high school class trip to Yosemite, with the change in plans to going to San Francisco at the last minute, to ending our senior years stuck in our houses. Despite all of the bad luck, coincidences, and poor timing, our class has persevered and made the best of our situation, culminating to these last few moments together. With these last 4 years coming to an end, I have to say thank you for some of the best experiences and memories I will cherish. I would cherish these as I go out of state to college. This year, however, will always be special to me. From beginning the year in Glacier to stuck in my house, this year has still managed to be my favorite. As we move on to our colleges and other aspirations, I will always treasure the years spent here, as our school song says so well. I want to wish everyone luck, happiness, and health. I will miss you guys and will cherish the experience I've had here. And to everyone going to LSU, hope to see you in the championship next year, even though I'm switching sides.
Our third speaker really requires no introduction, especially since he has lately taken to signing his emails to me, Luke the Machine Croxton. However, I can honestly say that I cannot imagine CES without his presence. While I knew this place before he arrived in the high school, his leadership and humor, his seriousness of academic pursuit, and his lofty goals of things like the Harvest Fest have become such bold, vibrant colors in the fabric of this school and who have become that it seems as though he has always been here. Rare anymore is the student leader who joins student council for anything other than adding to their college resume. This young man, however, has true passion for student council, for leadership, for his school, and honestly, for just making sure everyone else has a good time. His mark here is indelible, and our buildings will echo with his laughter long after graduation ushers him toward his future. Your third speaker this morning is Mr. Luke Croxton.
All right. Hey, fellas. For y'all watching at home, I'm Luke Croxton. I'm a senior. And so I think it's a pretty funky time right now. You know, there's so much going on. I don't really want to get into it all. But there's a lot going on. I was thinking about it, and I kind of think all of our years at Christ Episcopal have been at least almost as funky as this one right here. You know, Christ Episcopal is a weird place, and I feel like it has a very special way of just making everything kind of come together. It's such a weird place. It encourages us to pursue whatever we want, and it encourages the weirdness of high school, which makes for a very unique 4 years. You know, we have events like Area 51 Day and a flag football game for homecoming instead of a regular game because we don't have a football team. Sometimes we get out of class early to eat food for Thanksgiving feast. We have clubs like the Putt Holes and the Anime Club, which everyone claps for at the end of every announcement. I mean, I feel like it's not acknowledged enough. It's crazy, but I think the fact that it's so weird is definitely a positive thing. It allows us to kind of grow some more and have a ton of fun doing it. And so that said, when I started thinking about all of these like fun CES memories, I got kind of sad, you know. Thinking about moving on to the next step of life, it's a little sad. And because all this crazy stuff is going to be over with soon, it's going to be different. It's going to be good, but it's going to be different. We're not going to see each other as much, and it's just like Mr. Hardy said, change is inevitable, but I think it's also a little sad. But I think these memories are incredible memories, and when I think of them, it makes me less sad to take solace in the fact that I appreciated those memories fully and as much as I could in that moment. It wasn't all great. High school's not perfect for everybody, but there are so many memories that we shared as a class together that I just think are incredible, and we're gonna miss them. We lived in those moments, and we enjoyed those moments to the fullest with no cares in the world at that time, and I think that makes those memories so much more special. I think when I'm hopefully graduating college in 4 years, I don't want to look back and feel sad that everything's over. I want to feel happy that I lived those moments to the fullest. And when I'm looking back now, it gives me some comfort. Like even now, like Bridget said, is going to be one of the last times that we're all together in the same area. So I just think, I don't know, I think we need to even now live in the present and just appreciate the fact that we're all here together and hopefully having fun. And I also think if we can continue to live life in the moment like we've done in the past 4 years, then in the next 4 years, we'll be able to look back and know that we have even more cherished memories. Thanks. That's it.
Our fourth speaker this morning represents grace and poise and creativity and hilarity and is potentially the kindest soul I've ever known. Her empathic heart allows her insight into the weight others are carrying and grants her the ability to sit with them, to listen, to help. And eventually, her sense of humor allows them to find their smile again. She sees goodness in the world and seeks it in its population, and that can take a whole lot of effort sometimes. Her leadership on student council and her dedication to seeing projects through to fruition is honestly the reason so many events that you guys have enjoyed the past few years have actually occurred. She's a really good human who effortlessly harnesses her intelligence with her benevolence to yield positive change in the world around her. Her legacy at CES will be felt in events that still sparkle with her creative touches and that will last because of her commitment to excellence. It is my great pleasure to introduce our fourth speaker, Ms. Lucy Vanderbroek.
Good morning, CES. My name is Lucy Vanderbroek, and today I'd like to talk to you about resilience, something that the CES class of 2020 knows a lot about. In the commencement address for UT Austin this year, author Brene Brown talked about resilience to the graduates. She said, "What starts here changes the world, but it will not be on your terms and it will not be on your timeline." As we can see right now more than ever, the world does not ready itself for our plans. Your ability to live a life that's full of love and meaning, to make the world a braver and kinder place, to disrupt and reshape the future, has very little to do with the greatness of your plan. It depends completely on your ability to get back up and begin again when your plan fails. This reminded me of our CES class of 2020. So many of our high school experiences have not gone according to plan, starting in freshman year when our long-anticipated trip to Yosemite almost didn't happen. It was changed considerably from past years, and we didn't get to spend our whole trip in Yosemite like the other classes did. But instead of dwelling on what we were missing, we had fun rolling down the hills in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, kissing poisonous newts, and playing the card game Pooh Head late into the night. Even when it rained on us, we just put on our rain suit, pants and all, and moved forward to have a good time. As Miss Cesar always says on our wilderness trips, there's no bad weather, only bad gear. She taught us that even when conditions are not ideal, we can still have fun, and that true happiness has very little to do with what's happening, and all to do with our attitude. We learned she was right, because it rained on just about every wilderness trip we went on. Well, we're having some bad weather right now. We've needed to put on our rain pants and adjust our attitudes. We've seen firsthand that life does not go according to our plan. But life isn't about waiting for the storms to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain anyway. Sorry, that's cliche, but... In fact, some of my favorite memories of high school happened when we came together in the rain, both literally and metaphorically, as a class to make the most of our time together. And here we are, in the storm of this pandemic. The best part of our senior year canceled. It's the worst weather we've had yet. Most of us have been looking forward to senior traditions like field day, senior prank, prom, and the Dundee Awards since we were freshmen. Some people would give up and focus on all the negatives, but not our class. We just put on our rain pants and keep going. Over and over and over again, our class has faced tests of adversity, and we've demonstrated our ability to make the best of what's around. We are able to persevere, to find the silver linings, and turn difficult situations into the best of memories with the best of friends. Although the hard days have challenged us, we've been able to find gratitude and appreciation for each other and for our school. We look for the lessons, even as we are disappointed. We're open to opportunities, even when our expectations are not met. We grieve the loss of our time together that we'll never get back, but we continue to come together as a class of 2020. My classmates are some amazing and unique people, and each one is destined for greatness. I mean, what other class has a cast of characters this unique? I'll always remember us by our gold lame suits, our disposable camera collections, and for our car obsessions. But most importantly, I will remember the class of 2020 as a group of people who can always make me smile. It's true that the world has not readied itself for our plans, and the future is uncertain. But because of all this class has been through together, we're more capable than ever to reshape the future and to change the world. CES has given us the foundation, and our circumstances have given us lots of practice putting on our rain pants and dancing in the rain anyway. Congratulations to the class of 2020. I love all of you so much, and I can't wait to see where the future takes us. This is Lucy Vanderbrook, CES News. It's been a pleasure being your anchor, signing off.
Our fifth and final speaker has traveled a unique path at CES. He came to us for the high school and then left for a period, though not fully because basketball and his dedication to it had won his heart. And then in a surprise move, he asked to return for his senior year. It seemed to mean something to him not only to graduate from CES, but to spend this last year of high school with you guys, his classmates. What really strikes me about this student, however, is how he acts when no one is looking and when he will get no credit for the actions he's taking. It would be easy to hear him at a debate at school or in an argument with friends or just in the classroom and to assume you know all that he is. And you would be wrong. This is a young man who inspires his teammates, who extends kindnesses anonymously because gaining credit is not the point, and who gives up comfort and time at home to venture into the world so he can work hard to provide for those in need. We are grateful for his return this year and are eager to hear his address of his classmates this morning. Your final speaker today is Mr. Diego Davey.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Feels kind of good to get some fresh air out of the mask. First off, I'd like to say hello to my mom. I'm pretty sure she's watching at home. Anyways, yeah, it feels pretty nice seeing y'all all spaced out. It feels like I'm talking to a crowd of like 200 versus just like 36 or however many of their lists there are. Anyways, one of the first things you do before you give a speech, or at least me personally, is you go on YouTube and you look at great speeches or best speeches of all time. Maybe to get some inspiration of some sort. I'm sure we've all been there in Dr. Fox's class trying to come up with something original. But so I did my best to plagiarize some Winston Churchill and the Gettysburg Address, but it just didn't really end up working out. So I guess you'll have to listen to whatever I'm about to say. Most of these speakers, because I listen these type of speeches where it's the graduation and stuff. First off, amazing job to everybody. Y'all did much better than any YouTube video I watched. Great speeches, very heartfelt. But most of the themes and these types of things are these motivational speakers trying to motivate y'all. You hear stuff like believe it to achieve it, things of that sort. And to be honest, that's not my goal right now. My goal right now is not to motivate y'all. I could do my best to try to do that. I could be pounding on this thing and getting all hyped up. I could play like the Inception soundtrack in the background as I'm talking, and it's just like this loud boom, and like we all walk out of here and we're all just like, feel like we're on top of the world. But that's really not going to change anything, because that's not what we're about. One thing I learned was that motivation. We can all be motivated. I'm sure we all have been in our lives. We're motivated to do something. In the moment, we have this idea of who we want to be, what we want to do. And, that's great. We can be like the Energizer Bunny and we're just going to town. Just, we know what we want to do. But, that's motivation versus dedication. What dedication is, and what I see in a lot of y'all is, dedication is when you're not motivated at all. You have zero motivation. You don't want to do whatever you're doing. You don't even want to get out of bed, but you still do it because you're dedicated. It's not just some fleeting type of feeling. You're dedicated to whatever you're doing. And that's something that's, highlighted in CES. We're dedicated to each other. We have a community that supports each other. And that's something I'll always be grateful for. And so, I guess I just want to leave y'all with something practical before we all go, because, the future is out there. It's kind of a scary thought, like Luke was saying. It's scary. It's sad to be moving on. But, we all have these big aspirations. We always hear about this, like, end goal of where we want to be, but, like, it's kind of hard to know how to get there. Like, what are we going to do? And so I'm just going to leave y'all a little advice on how to be dedicated. And one of the first steps is setting goals for yourself. If you're motivated to be a millionaire, then the first step isn't get $1 million. It's not quite that easy. You have to set goals for yourself. And when I mean set goals for yourself, so I don't mean you have to have your whole life figured out. I know as seniors, like before you know what you're doing after high school, one of the most annoying questions is people asking exactly that. What are you doing after high school? Where do you want to go to college? What do you want to study? All those questions. And, frankly, you probably have no idea at that point. And some of us still may not. And that's perfectly fine. You don't have to have your whole life planned out right now. But one thing I will encourage y'all to do is to set goals for yourselves, where you want to be or what you want to do in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. Then you can focus on those types of goals. And a good way to stay focused is to have good priorities, because, and I feel like this school has taught us that well. If your priorities are in things such as being popular, material things, if you're just focused on yourself, then you're really never going to be able to be focused, because, really all those fun memories that, Bridget and Lucy talked about, notice like they didn't say, my best memories are at CES is when I received the, history class award, and I was in front of everybody and everybody's clapping for me. Like that's not their favorite memories, and that's not where you're going to find fulfillment. Like Mr. Hardy was saying, you're really going to find those fulfillment moments in life is when you dedicate yourself to something greater than yourself, and that's part of having a community. Proverbs 27:17 says, as one man sharpens another, so does iron sharpen another, something like that. As iron sharpens iron, another man sharpens another. That sounds better. I think that kind of captures CES. You know, we all build upon each other and we all support each other. You know, like Ms. Clark said, I did leave for a year, and I did get kind of like an outside perspective on all of y'all, and that's something I really noticed and something I'm really gonna miss. You know, it's really rare, you know, in any school to, you know, that I could like name each one of y'all or even that I know y'all. Versus at my old school, I felt like I knew like 5 people, including my siblings. You know, that's something really rare. And so, you know, another part about being dedicated is and having good priorities is, you know, not worrying about, you know, what other people think. And, you know, I know we've been told that all our lives. You know, people like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg are famous for wearing the same thing every day to work. You know, my dad eats the same thing for breakfast every day. I'm not going to tell you what that is because that's our secret to how tall we are. But, you know, it's stuff like that. You know, it's focusing on much bigger and better things. You know, because and that's where you can find that type of dedication that lasts. And one last thing I'm going to leave you is, you know, find somebody that can help you keep you accountable. You know, because if you have all these goals, you have all these aspirations of who you want to be, where you want to be in life. You know, like I feel like any of y'all could be somebody that could keep me accountable. Like for me specifically, you know, Jack Lambert is a good friend of mine. There he is. You know, Mr. Jack Lambert. You know, he's been a friend of mine. We've shared our goals, who we want to be, what we want to do, and you know, and that's important because just be honest with that person, because there are a lot of times when we're not motivated at all, and you know, having that, you know, it means the world. And so I'm thankful for all the memories we've had together, and I just want to leave y'all with something a little practical. Hopefully you took something away from my speech. If not, thanks for listening.
Okay, Miss Ann, do you have any instructions for? So listen, we're determined to have our graduation on Friday evening. If the weather's not good, I think we're good. Ann, are we not good to go to the gym? All right, so I'm telling you, we're doing it Friday evening, 6:30. And if the weather allows, we'll be on the steps of the theater, and if not, we'll be in the gym. And I'm excited about that. No matter what, you know, it's just so ironic. I think you guys have just been with us all the way, and we're going to make this special. We're going to make it great, and I think you'll be proud of with however this turns out. So, Miss Ann, do you want to say something? Okay. I mean, I realize you guys have spent time together, and keeping socially distant is not really a priority for some of you, but I want you to honor that now as we walk out, please. So please continue to look for emails from Miss Ann giving you specifics about Friday. You guys look great today. I'm so proud of you. And let's do it this way. Bridget, why don't you start? Wait, hang on.
That was my plan. Lola asked for serious and silly, and that's 100% my plan. And I'll send it to Bridget, maybe, or to somebody who can send it out to everybody. It just makes me so happy to see all of you here today, and I kind of need this memory for myself as well as to share it with you. So thank you for your generosity and allowing my indulgence here. Okay, I'm coming. We're gonna do one serious where everybody's looking, and then one, I don't care, silly, whatever you want to do. I'm just happy we're all here together. real picture now, so if you could kind of get yourselves together. Look here. Alex, wait, you can't just get up and walk out because we have to keep you distance. I don't want to make anybody. Okay. All right, we're gonna process out. Who's going first? Okay, Miss Ann's gonna give you directions. Why don't you want to stand up there? On how to leave appropriately in a healthy way.